So hi, Alejandro. Is it pronounced right?
That was perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Hello,
See,
Vaadin.
you see how well I prepared.
Yes, yes, yes.
So now, the next question is: what was your first computer?
Oh man, my first computer. That's a good question. I think I don't remember the specs precisely, but it was an IBM PC that had these DOS operating system,
Yeah,
DOS,
yeah.
and then it had Windows like 3.11, if I remember correctly. That you had to type Win to enter the graphical
Yeah,
environment,
yeah. And it
and
crashed
you would
frequently.
place it in there. Sorry.
And it crashed frequently, right?
Yeah, you can say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
and you had to put like win in the outexec.back file
Mm-hmm.
so it started with the environment. So it was the computer. We will hang out like with me and my brothers on DOS just to learn all the commands and stuff.
Why? Why you did it? I mean, you could just play or whatever. Or why you started with the commands?
I think it's no. We were playing as well some games. I was playing a game that was called Stunts. I think it was Stunts Cars.
Okay.
Doing crazy things. That was an amazing game. And Wolfenstein 3D as well.
Okay.
And then we would execute this from the command line.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't know. But the other reason was that we had these books that were like for kids, teaching them how to use computers. And the first one was about all these commands, how you can interact with the files, copy files, move files, all that kind of basic stuff. So we wanted always to try that out.
And why? I mean, you had to do that in order, to install the game, or were just curious?
No, we were just curious, and we were we wanted to do the things that were shown in this book. It looked pretty cool, just to have these blinking cursor there.
Okay.
And text mode, and like a matrix kind of thing.
For me, it's great, but sometimes now if I open my terminal window, I already see some developers don't like it. So okay, oh man, these commands again, right? So this I ask you why you were excited about these commands. I also like them, but yeah. Okay, nice. Then you became a master of DOS, right? Hopefully not of DDoS, rather than just DOS.
Yeah, I wouldn't say a master, but yeah, we felt comfortable using it. Until there was a time where I made a mistake. I was copying. This is much, much later. I was copying some files, some C++ files, I believe, from one directory to another. There wasn't any Git, and I wasn't using any kind of source control system at all. And I was copying the files. Okay, done, because I was restructuring everything or organizing my stuff. Oh, okay, let's delete this one because I don't need it. Yeah, I needed that directory, so I lost a bunch of source code there.
Okay. So
and I was like, yeah, I should have done this with the mouse, maybe.
Yeah. Great. So you started with DOS, and then what was your first program you wrote beside DOS?
My first programming program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So these books that I told you before, the third book, it was about programming using the basic language.
Which books were they? So how you got them, and what are they?
Yeah, we got them from my parents, so they bought these books for us.
Okay.
I was around probably 12, 13, 12, I believe. And they bought this for us. We really liked the computer. And that was the reason. The books are still at my mother's house, I believe. But it's a small publisher. I don't even remember well the name of the books, and it's in Spanish.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was maybe a Spanish publisher to begin with. But yeah. That's where those books came from. So we were trying out examples, basic examples. It came with a basic interpreter as well, and we would develop all kind of silly applications and like conversations, like trying to emulate a game, like the conversation that could occur in a game. Then we would do a simulation of an antivirus.
Okay.
And so we would show like a progress bar there, and all the steps and everything, like select the hard drive, etc.
Yeah.
And we would read and write random files in the hard drive so that it sounds like it's scanning the hard drive.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And show the progress bar. And then, you didn't have any virus. Good.
Okay. No, it's great. You are excited with the look and feel of you probably liked it was too early for metrics, I guess, but something metrics like experience, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So this was basic. And why you started basic on IBM PC? Because I think it was harder, right? It didn't came with basic out of the box.
Actually, it was this QBasic
Okay.
there available, but we didn't know.
Okay.
So we would use the interpreter that came with the disks that came with the books.
Okay.
So it's just, again, like the blinking cursor. And then if you want to type the code, and you go 10.
Yeah.
And just left something or whatever it was, and so forth. And in order to see the code, you have to type list. If you want,
exactly.
If it's too long, you pause or something.
Exactly. But why I'm asking, because I started with ZX Spectrum, and this machine had BASIC built in. So for me, if you turn it on, it was just BASIC. But on the PC, there was no. I mean, in the early PCs, there was just nothing, right? If you loaded DOS, it was just DOS, but no programming environment. So if I switched to PC, the very first one was 8086. It started with Turbo Pascal. So like BASIC was not even on the horizon. So I didn't even knew that you can get, very easily BASIC on these machines. So I ask you. So, but if it came with the book, it is clear. I mean, you just loaded this and Okay. Yeah. So and you were done with the book. So what was it? So if you know after the books, after the antivirus, so what came out of the books? So what software you wrote?
Well, nothing really serious. Just with BASIC, it was only kind of
fun
jokes, really, and funny programs. But we got very early also into, and by we I mean me and my brothers, into game development. Cool. And I remember I wouldn't play that much. Yeah, there were some games that I would like to play, but not that much. But one of my brothers, especially, he really loved to play video games. So I would watch him play the video games and try to think, how do they do this? Mm-hmm. What kind of algorithm? Like everything, like from the scene A to scene B, the menu, how the conversations happen, how they move the characters, the scrolling, all these things. And I was amazed by how they can do it so perfectly.
Yeah.
And so I would spend a lot of time thinking about it. And we didn't have many books, or there were basically not that many books on game development or anything. There were some magazines. Maybe we got some information from there. So something we did was, this now is using QBasic. We did. I developed kind of we wanted to create a game. So we developed first an application to be able to draw the characters and all the graphics. And it was funny because I think we called it something like pixel draw or something like that, because you have to move a pixel. It's like the empty screen. There's a pixel only there. You have to move it with the arrow keys. And when you want the pixel to change the color, you press the space bar.
Okay.
And if you want a different color, you press, I don't know, like F something, and you type color and the code of the color. Cool. And changes the current color, and so forth. So you can imagine what would be the effort to create even a very simple kind of graphics. And I remember one of my cousins who was very into these kind of things, like the art, the graphical design. He was using this program I made to make a character.
Okay.
Hours. And so while he was doing these things, this was at my grandparents' house, where another cousin lived, who was older than us, who was studying computer science. He had all these books there about programming. And I'm going to read this all while he is just...
Because you wanted to learn programming games, right? This is what you wanted to do. Okay.
That was the main motivation at some point,
And you wanted to sell the games then, or it was just pointless? You just wanted, to create a great game?
Yeah, we didn't have any vision on people are going to use it, but we wanted to go through the experience of creating the video game.
With your pixel stuff, I did something similar with characters, but pixel is more problematic with BASIC, right? Because drawing a pixel on the screen, it was not that easy, as I remember, right? Was it just a simple draw? No. Because, I did the same with characters. I wanted to draw something on screen, so I created something Photoshop-like, right, with characters, so I can draw with dots or with whatever. But I think pixels, you had to do something else. I don't remember BASIC anymore, but it was not as easy as characters.
Yeah, maybe not with BASIC, but with QBasic there was this directive, whatever it's called there.
Okay.
You just give
could you save the character somewhere? Could you save it? You know what he drew?
Yeah, so we invented a format.
Very good.
Kind of
cool.
Yeah, and not compressed or anything.
No, but it's nice.
But it's set into our own format, so it started like some bytes. Yeah, and then you tell the size, and then the actual pixel.
So you could save it on floppy or whatever, and yeah, but this was actually a great project. Would be even fun now to build such a thing.
Yeah, I agree. It was. I think maybe I have the source code somewhere on GitHub because I found those
on
files
GitHub
later.
would be great. So we have to put it to show notes. This is. I always ask so jokingly, do you have the early project? Because such a project on GitHub would be actually nice.
So yeah, it was really fun, and like I said, it was because we wanted to go through the experience. There was not like we didn't feel like a hurry to finish this thing. We were just enjoying every single step, and that was amazing.
And how old were you back then?
Oh, we were using this just probably 14.
Not bad. And how much time did you spend on computer every day?
Oh, that's a good point. Not that many hours because I had two brothers. We only had one computer.
Okay.
And my sister also wanted to play video games, so we had to take turns.
Okay.
But that played as an advantage at some point because I would just take the books, read, waiting for my turn. So I had to use very wisely my turn.
Productively,
just read the books.
Productively, yeah. It's like almost like a punch card, so you have to prepare everything, and then you got a keyboard and write very fast.
Yeah.
So what I would try to do, I would try, to explain my sister how great, typing is, and let type your stuff, in. Then reward her with something and say, great, So like, or one of our brothers, or it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. And this already sounds interesting. So what happened afterwards, after QBasic? After
QBasic, I started to learn C.
Of course.
So I got some book. I don't remember the title.
Still with the background gaming, right? So you wanted still,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly, I liked other kind of software. Like I said, we were programming this antivirus, fake antivirus thing. So I also liked any kind of software. But yeah, games were like the bigger motivation maybe. And I was amazed because when we were using BASIC, it was really like a mystery how to create an executable file. .x.
Exactly.
We had no idea, really.
Yeah.
We just didn't know.
And I wanted to do this. This was exactly my thing. So how to do something which starts and you don't see the source code inside, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It looks like now it's real. It's for real.
Yeah, exactly.
For real.
Right. Yeah.
It's not fake.
Yeah. And this was the reason why I did Turbo Pascal. The first, I asked around, how to do that. It's like, with Turbo Pascal, you can create, a true program, something which starts. So, okay, now we are talking, right?
Yeah, exactly. That kind of feeling. So when I started to use that, it's like you get an executable immediately. And I was like, okay, that's very interesting. And I just like the language. For some reason, I liked C. And
you got it immediately, or was it hard to learn?
No, it wasn't that hard. Partially because we were still doing these turns to get the computer to give me a lot of time to think about it, to read each paragraph very carefully and understand what it's a pointer to a variable.
So now you know why singletons do not scale, right? So the single patterns doesn't scale like a computer. You can explain to students, if you have a singleton, which is synchronized, and this it was, right? It was like atomic access to your computer, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so with C, I remember we built a kind of a library to do graphical stuff. So you have to execute these interruption in the operating system. I think it was 13H, if I remember correctly. And then it changed the mode to graphical mode. And it was this 320 horizontal and vertical. I think it was 200 maybe. Yeah. And you had
300, 320 by 240 or something like this, right? This was this.
Something like that.
Something like this, I remember roughly.
Yeah. So that was the mode was on. Now you can draw things there. And so I built this library to not have, so you didn't have to use these assembly instructions, which I copy pasted from somewhere else, most likely. And then with that, we started to develop the actual video game. So it was, we had this, it was funny because we would even have meetings about it as kids, like teenagers.
Cool.
And we have meetings to discuss the requirements and the design of the game. And I would write documents with this thing.
But this is what I'm always saying. If you really would like to achieve something, to write something great, you became automatically agile. I do not believe that you will just start, to read process books, how to write software. You iterate more often. If you have some questions, you meet each other and discuss the question and then go hacking. So it just happens. And if someone doesn't like, to implement software, they need process and what to do and whatever. It's the beginning of the end. But you really like it. You are agile, because it is the most natural way of doing things. And this is why I dislike the word agile, because it implies it is something different. This is just, iterative development. You have to iterate fast. Because I'm pretty sure if you would spend, too much time hacking the game and you introduce an error without testing, then you will never ever find the error, the error again. You couldn't fix the bug, So what you probably did, a small change, see whether the pixel draws, small change, see drawing, but you cannot just spend, entire day hacking code and copying assembly and hoping it will work, right? So you learn it automatically.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moreover, sometimes during the meetings, we would just take a look at the code and see, well, that's really hard to do. Let's take first this step.
Yeah.
Then we'll get there. So what you're saying, like agile. So let's not just do this super huge thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Incrementally do this, and then we're going to have another meeting and so forth. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because at some point we would discuss all these ideas, and it gets kind of out of control as well because you want to make like the best game ever.
Yeah, of course.
You don't have the resources now. Yeah. And so we are like having these brainstorming sessions mostly. And one of my brothers, who was more like down to earth, let's say, he started to joke about it, and he said at some point, the game was called Apocalypse or something like that.
This is what I wanted to tell you. So because at the beginning you said pixel draw, it's like usually I will call such a overkill as a teenager or something, like kill all zombies or something like that. And Apocalypse is the right name for a teenager game. So this is exactly.
yeah, Apocalypse. And my brother would say, you should call the game Apocalypse 2040.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's the year where you are going to finish the game.
Yeah. But it's actually great insight. This is like, you knew what will happen later in larger companies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like a Project Longhorn on Microsoft. It could be the same jokes, Okay, but how far you were with the game? So you saw already something on the screen, or was just planning?
Yeah, it was so we had like the very basic kind of isometric. It wasn't really isometric engine, but like tiles.
Okay.
So an array that each value means one kind of tile, and it had its properties, like you can walk on that or not.
Okay.
And so we had that collision system as well, and the character was moving around, and the scroll was smooth.
Okay.
We got to that point basically. No, we never get beyond that.
That was but it's already a lot. I mean, this is like the basics. So I would say 60% done, and the remaining part is getting harder and harder to make it now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess you had some disputes with your family, and then you stopped working, right? So so some of the meetings didn't went that well, right? Was this the problem?
There's always drama, yeah. yeah.
And you still like your brothers, or now it's over, You say
no, we don't talk to each other. No, we do. We joke about these things, yeah. Uh-huh. But yeah, there were collisions, especially when you start to grow up. You have your own opinions now, and they gain weight. Then it's harder, and then you also realize, like, we are not going to do this the way we are doing it, and you start to study in university and so forth. So it gets harder and harder to continue with this kind of projects.
But this was your main projects before university, right?
Yeah.
So you learned QBasic and C. This was your pre-university experience.
Yeah, and C++ later, which I was amazed by. I remember the feeling of like thinking about the object orientation paradigm and how I remember like a phrase in the book. It was like an object or a class model is an object that has data and the operations on that data. That really resonated on me, and I was like, it makes totally sense because now I can, especially when you're thinking about video games. Yeah. Because it's like, I'm going to have the character class, for example, and so forth.
Yeah, for me, it was the same. So as I learned about C++, for me, everything was an object then, right? So I even saw, in tables or files, this could be object. I can have a table and say, read rows and then update and files the same. And I was completely into it. And I remember we had to do, in math, matrix multiplication. So of course I created 2 objects, metrics, in C++. Everything was an object. I even implemented in C++ for fun the RSA algorithm just to see how it works, and also completely object oriented. And I really like the H files, the header files. And I was fascinated by cin, and cout with how these, and I can overload the operators. This was the
operator.
So this as Java came, I said, okay, no operator overloading is somehow lame, and no, and also no how to call the multiple inheritance. It's called, right? So Java is just single inheritance.
Right.
I really loved it because it was very flexible. I can just, and the Java came, so okay, this interface inheritance is like a fake. So okay, cool. So and what you studied? Computer science.
I studied computer science. Yeah.
So and you knew that this is a thing, and you will like it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had basically 2 options. I like to play the guitar, so I felt like I want to study music or computer science.
Which kind of music? Classic music or more Jimi Hendrix style music?
More Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
style.
Of course.
I like rock music and metal mostly.
Can you play guitar?
I think I can a bit. Yeah, it's.
What do you mean a bit? I mean, can you just play all the AC/DC stuff with solos or not?
I can play some of those solos, maybe. Yeah.
Solos, okay.
Maybe.
Then you can play guitar because solos are a little bit challenging.
I can do solos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
But I decided very early that I just like programming.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very easy choice for me to make. Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. I was fascinated from day one. I knew this is like I could do something for fun. So I could work and have fun, which was impossible back then. So I said, okay, this is like a dream, like a paradise. And it still kind of is because, this week I had some problems on the Java side, and I spent lots of time, to hunting the bugs. And I still enjoyed that. So I probably worked, 12 hours a day, but for me it was like a 1 hour. So I did adjust, and then I found the bug, and I'm really happy right now, right? So
it's rewarding.
Yeah, very rewarding.
The feeling is rewarding.
So we are fortunate. Yeah. Okay, what you learned at the university and where you studied? Which university was it?
I studied in a university in Colombia, which is called the National University of Colombia.
Okay.
It's the biggest university there. It was also where I got my first job as a software developer.
Mm-hmm.
As I was studying.
And you enjoyed the university, or were disappointed? Because you knew a lot before, and then you had to learn sorting algorithm or whatever.
Yeah, true. No, I enjoyed.
Okay.
In the end, I enjoyed. It was fun because you always learn things anyway, that different perspectives and things that you just really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's programming in many of the courses, so it's fun anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using Java, so that's how I got into Java. So I had to learn Java to do all the
and you like Java
and stuff. I kind of liked it at the beginning, but I think it was more because of the hype that was around it, because it was used in every university and you run everywhere. Although I felt like it wasn't true because you have to install this piece of software in order to run the Java.
This is what I say. So what I didn't like at Java at the beginning is, the .class, the bytecode was not executable. Actually, you cannot run it. Yeah. And this was like a fake. Then you have to install the Java virtual machine, which was huge. I mean, there were 2 megs back then. I started with JDK 1.0 before it was still. But say, what's the point? Of course, if I install something on every machine, it will run everywhere. But I have to install something. So for me, it was like stupid. It's a completely stupid idea. What are you doing here, right? And for me, it was no different because I said, okay, but if I have a scripting language, let's say like Basic or Python, I could also run it everywhere. I mean, what's the difference, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So this was, but I got a little bit later, and now I like Java, of course, but at the beginning, what I was really searching for were the header files. Because the interface were for me just a fake. It's okay, I can do it, but header files are nicer because there's a file somewhere, and I have compiler against the header file. And the interfaces were kind of fake, and the scenes out was gone, operator overloading was gone. So I was a little bit sad with Java at the beginning, and it took me a longer time to get the interfaces actually. So as I understood the interfaces, the first time really was JDBC, because I saw, now we are talking, so I can use different databases, I can swap the entire implementation, and this was actually so interesting. Which Java version you started? You remember that?
I believe it was 1.4.
Oh, late actually. I thought it was okay. So you are actually you had the modern Java.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the first job it was probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
Right, because we had generics and everything. So
So and something interesting happened at the university. So did you some cool Java programming? So you Java game probably or something aside? Yes. were there any interesting, side projects at the university? This is what I wanted to ask.
To be honest, not that many.
Yeah.
I think it was more, I kept like writing the fun stuff using C++
Okay.
for a while. Partially because I was in a similar situation as you were. Like I felt like limited now with this language. It's like a subset, if you wish, of C++.
Okay, so which were the side
like
projects in C++ during university? Something interesting.
Yeah, so for that, maybe I was exploring 3D graphics.
Oh, okay.
Now. So I developed these first kind of non-trivial thing I developed was a ray casting engine. So the same technique they used in Wolfenstein 3D.
So ray tracing, you mean?
It's nice.
Ray tracing?
Ray casting.
Not
ray tracing, which is like the one they use in Doom.
Yeah.
But ray casting. So
what does it mean? I don't know the term. What is it?
So it's instead of you create a grid, right? Like an array. And again, you have values there. And let's say you have 0 and 1. And 0 is floor and 1 is a wall.
Okay.
Then you start to cast for each line in the screen. You cast array.
Okay.
And then you calculate how that would look like, which color, which and how high, the height of it, depending on the distance. And then you get all that like orthogonal kind of look.
And this is a thing. So this is like an algorithm usable in 3D still, right? So this is like, you have to know it if you program something in 3D, right?
It's kind of obsolete nowadays, unless you want to do this kind of retro thing.
Okay.
Now, the more advanced was the one you mentioned, that it's ray tracing.
I just thinking about immediately, I don't know whether you're aware of, this frame or 3JS. In JavaScript, for instance, if you do something like this, would you need the low-level stuff or is already abstracted?
No. When I was doing it, I had to do like the calculations.
Okay, the calculations are done. Because we get now the primitives, so we don't have to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what you created the 3D engine itself. So there was no 3D and you... Okay, I got it. So it would be interesting if you would create a JavaScript framework from scratch and you would like, to draw a wall or something on the screen, then you will need the algorithms, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Which could be also an interesting exercise. And I bet there are many examples already.
So you have to reactivate your brothers.
I have to do it. Maybe I should, I should call them.
Family meeting, family meetings. Come, let's have a meeting. Now we do the project 2080.
Yeah, I hired a German developer.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you join us.
Yeah, cool. So this is amazing. And what happened with that? With your 3D stuff?
At some point, I abandoned that a bit.
Yeah.
And
well, how far it worked? So what was visible on the screen back then?
Well, the whole labyrinth was visible, and you can move around.
Oh, okay.
That was it. And there was collision with the walls.
Okay,
but no characters. Yeah, it's pretty much you can walk through this 3D world. I experimented later with engines. I remember Augur 3D. There was one that was from a German guy, by the way. I don't remember the name of the engine, but it was C++.
Okay.
And my brother used that for his thesis at the university. He created like an actual full game, like multiplayer game.
Oh, nice.
And I helped him with the music, I believe.
This is actually great. So this is a great story because as kids, you did something together, and then you are still, reusing your leisure activities from your youth. So it's actually perfect.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing.
You're lucky. Okay. And so you did 3D. Something else interesting during your university?
I think that was the most interesting thing. I did like all the 3D stuff. Right.
Then now to the real stuff. Forget about 3D. Now Java. So what happened after university with Java?
Yeah. So as I was studying there, I got a job there in the university, and they were using Java. It was amazing actually because I'd never done any web development for real. And just still experiments, very small experiments, in other words, maybe with PHP also at some point, and very basic JavaScript and HTML, now frameworks. And they have this Spring application with Struts 2 and Hibernate were the main technologies. Okay. There were many other libraries, but that was the way I started web development because I had to help maintaining this web application. Yeah.
With Struts. And you enjoyed Struts too?
When I started with it, yeah, because it was new for me.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. It's like, I can create these web things. So I have to say, yeah. But maybe it's because I didn't know any other options.
I also enjoyed Struts.
Good.
I used Struts 1. I don't know whether I ever used struts too. I don't know. But what I really enjoyed that, if you do it right, it was great. Because you had, the controller and you had the views, but the problem was that the developers started, to implement too much logic in the controllers. I think.
Yeah.
Their specific names. I forgot actually the names. The views had specific names, and if you did actions, exactly, in the actions. Yeah. If you implemented too much logic in the actions, it was horrible. And most of the projects were like that. So they didn't separate the actions from the actual logic. But if you did it, it was actually a great framework, and not that different from Angular 1. If you think, Struts 1 on the server was very similar to Angular 1. This is why I really liked Angular 1. So for me, Angular 1 was nice. Angular 2 is like technology from hell. But Angular 1 was actually nice and simple, I would say. There was a lot of magic going on, and I never got the idea why they have to rewrite that. But this is a different story. Okay, nice. So from then, you stick with web development?
Yeah. Since then, I've been doing pretty much only web development.
So you didn't you forgot about Java and then stick with JavaScript?
No. I didn't do that much JavaScript.
Okay.
Then, although there were industrial amounts of JavaScript because there were JQuery, and we were using this library to do basically Ajax calls and update the combo boxes, typical use case.
But with JQuery, it was actually also challenging because with JQuery, you had to know if I call the server, then I update this part. So it was like a little bit spaghetti, right? So this is exactly to know what state changes happens where, and what the entire dependencies on the screen were not that trivial.
Yeah, that's true. That's the reason we were using. I don't remember the name of the library, but we were using some library that simplified a bit this.
Backbone?
No, it was something else.
Okay.
It was so older, I believe. But yeah.
But what you created was the app. What was the app? It was like ticket sales or insurance, or what was it?
It was the department in this is a big university. It's a bigger in Colombia. So and it's a public university.
Okay.
And so it's much cheaper than private. So a lot of people want to get in the university, and so many people apply. Per semester. So this app supported all the processes related to that.
Okay.
So there was like a whole building, like 5, 6 floors that supported that operation, and we were building the software that supported them.
Okay. Not that trivial, I can imagine.
No, not at all. No, pretty complex. It was an amazing piece of software, I have to say. Yeah, it was. I was amazed by it. Like with all the complexity and these new things, it was amazing. I didn't know anything about Spring or Java EE whatsoever. So I had the idea of what it is. Maybe I had experimented just very like a hello world kind of thing. But this is like the real thing now.
But you had
amazing. It was amazing.
But you had amazing background regarding C, C++, and stuff like that. So for you, the enterprise development with Java, was it trivial or complicated, or what is your? If you saw that, you say, okay, I will learn it immediately, or I will never learn that, or what is this? So what is your?
No, it wasn't trivial. I had to read a couple of books. I remember the first thing I decided to do is I'm going to read a book on Spring because it's like the glue of this thing. Then I got the concepts of dependency injection and version of control cleared, and that simplifies the whole thing.
Yeah.
And but still then I have to deal with databases and Hibernate to access the database and JavaScript and so forth. And now it's Struts too, which I also read a book about it. But it takes time.
So it actually paid off, that your computer was shared across the entire family, because now you in advance read all the books, which paid off actually.
Yeah, I had to maintain things, and the code was organized in a way that a junior developer could just quickly fix something and so forth. But in order to understand like the architecture, all the parts, and
so it was not over-engineered. It was straight to the point, right?
It was. Yeah, it wasn't. It was nice. Yeah, I think it had some good patterns, and I learned a lot from that application.
How long you worked for the university then?
5 years.
And then what happens?
And then, so before maybe the last 2 years when I was working there, I realized that, or not realized, but I figured that we knew that the application had many CRUD views. And we had this kind of tool, but it involved a bit of copy pasting to ease the implementation of those views. So I wasn't that happy about it. So I started to kind of look for new frameworks. And I discovered Git at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, yeah, well, that's cool. But I didn't like that I have to introduce a new compiler there.
How it's called? Wicked?
So you have
the Wicked framework?
Git, the Google Web Toolkit.
Google Web Toolkit.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah.
I have to say I hated this Google Web Toolkit. But go ahead. So this is just for me it was like if my clients use Google Web Toolkit, I said to them, okay, I cannot help you if something breaks. It's just we only can hope it works well, right? Yeah, but go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah.
This is just a warning. So go ahead.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No. I didn't like it that much. What I liked is that it gave me the possibility to write Java instead of JavaScript. But I never used it that much, to be honest. But because of that, I discovered Vaadin, which I do like. And then
for me, Vaadin was the remedy because Vaadin used internally Git, and I didn't have to use Git. And my clients ask me, what? But now we have the problems. Like, no, we don't have the problem at all because if it doesn't work, call Vaadin, buy support in Finland, and leave me alone. So I say I don't care because if they're using internally and they're selling support, then this is the solution to the problem. But if Google Web Toolkit breaks, what we can do? We actually in one company, I said the same to Google Web Toolkit and say, okay, call Google and ask them whether we can buy support or whether they can help us. And there was actually Google said no. Yeah. There is no concept of supporting. This is an open source project, and you can find the bugs by yourself. Which is, I would say, it is hard, right? Because if you're building web applications and your compiler breaks, you cannot expect the developers, to create some free time and try to find the error in their compiler. And I assume you would at least need 2-3 days to understand the entire concept. This is like mission impossible for me. It is not responsible to do such a thing.
Yeah.
So this is why I really like Vaadin, because of instead of using Google Web Toolkit, just wrap around Vaadin uses internally, so it's not our problem now anymore. Now we can talk with Vaadin, and Vaadin looked nicer out of the box because they always had nice look and feel, way nicer what usual Java developer would create or design, right? Okay, you discovered Vaadin, and okay, when was it? Which year? You remember that?
Oh man, 2009 or 10.
Okay,
something like that. And but yeah, I liked it because it was a bit like Git, but it didn't compile
exactly
my Java files. I don't want to introduce another.
Yeah, and the hosted mode was not there exactly.
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to deal with any of those things. It's server side, so that's the other difference with Git. So I liked it. I experimented with it, and I was like, yeah, that looks cool. So let's try to make this generic crude thing that I was that I wanted to do, which I did. I implemented, and it was quickly as I was learning Vaadin, and I published the add-on. More or less like with one line of code, you can create a CRUD. You have the entities and the access to like a backend or service for the entity. And I was very happy with it. I could introduce that in the main application, but I developed another application for this department, and that was used in other departments in the university later. So I was happy with it. And I got, because I was a contractor then, I got a couple of jobs because of that add-on, additional job somewhere in, I think it was in Chile and somewhere else. I don't know.
Nice. But so you worked as contractor for the university?
Yeah.
So you're a freelancer, more or less.
A freelancer. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
But,
okay.
Yeah. I was studying at the same time, the first years at least.
Okay.
So it wouldn't give me time for anything else almost. But then when I graduated, I had a bit more of time, so I started to do this. I published the add-on, got these jobs, got not that much money. And I was selling, back then you could sell the add-ons in the Vaadin website.
Okay.
So I was selling it very cheap just to get people to use it. And they would contact me to implement something more, something additional, or they didn't know how to do it. So I would help them. And with that money, I decided, okay, let's just create a website, a blog. I started a blog, and I wrote a tutorial for these add-on. And then Back Publishing contacted me all of a sudden. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Okay.
Do you want to write a book about Vaadin? I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
That was an amazing opportunity. And then I got more serious about Vaadin.
Okay.
So now I have to write a book.
Uh-huh. And you wrote the book?
I wrote the book. Its name is Vaadin 7 UI Designed by Example. That was 2013, actually, when I wrote the book. It was later. But yeah, back then, actually, I wasn't working in the university anymore.
Was the book successful?
I would say so, yeah. It was good. And the thing is that I wrote the book in a way that you can read from cover to cover instead of like reference documentation. And it had all kind of very silly jokes and stuff just to make the read easier. So that some people like that kind of book, some people won't like it. But
Yeah.
But for those who like this kind of read, that you can just sit down somewhere and read
Yeah, I would
through.
I enjoy books, and they should be enjoyable. I mean, I can just, find a reference somewhere else. So yeah, nice.
Yeah, online. Yeah.
And yeah, nice. So you wrote a book about Vaadin. What happened then? So I'm really curious now. It's getting, it is a really exciting story. So you should write, book about what you achieved. My way to now. So it was already, everything was pretty interesting. So so what happens after the book? I can already imagine, but keep talking.
Yeah. So yeah, I wrote the book and it was published 2013, and then another surprise for me, because I was searching through the forums to solve some kind of issue, because now I'm using Vaadin for my projects, from these freelancer projects. But I had a job. Then I got a job in a very small company where I used Vaadin because I had the opportunity.
You mean you got a job? You mean you got a contract, or you just got a real job? I mean, you.
This was a permanent position.
Permanent job. Okay. Why you did it?
I felt like I wanted to learn, especially mostly about Java E, and because I had been using Spring, but I wanted to see an actual project, and it was amazing. Also, this was this kind of software that was. So
wait a second. So you were a freelancer working with Vaadin, and then the motivation was to learn Java E, and you did the permanent job for the company, right? So this was the idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I want to learn Java E, so I found this.
And why not Spring? Were you not happy with Spring, or?
No, I was happy. It's just I like to try new things and see what they have to offer. So it was, and I do like Java E as well, but I just want to see like an actual project.
Yeah.
How do you solve the actual problems with it? So I joined this very small company, probably 5 years old or something like that.
Okay.
So very young as well, and but there I ended up using Vaadin. I saw the opportunity like to use this CRUD thing that I was using. I thought it was perfect. I would deliver the software next week. So I did. So I'm working for this company, and then I received an email from Pact. That's when what I said before. Wrote the book, etc. And I decided, and then I was solving a problem on Vaadin in forums, and I saw these ads for a job that said like, we're looking for a developer who knows Spring, Hibernate, and Vaadin. And I have more than 5 years of experience with all these three, and I have written a book, so let's apply. It was in London, so I applied, and they called me. There wasn't even no interview. To be honest, the person who would be my future manager, he was asking me how to do certain kind of migration from one Vaadin version to another, but it was because he already had the problem, and he wanted to know my opinion. When he was asking me this, I saw that I got this job apparently, which I did. So I moved to London.
Was it for you a big deal? Back then, because you already worked for a smaller company, and now to London was like an upgrade, right, for you?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. From many perspectives, because this was in Colombia, so I had to move also very far away.
Okay. And excuse me, the Java E company, what they did, you remember? What was it roughly? Yeah,
it was in the financial industry, doing something called Murex migration. Murex, it's a software that they use in.
And you enjoyed the Java E stuff or not so?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Which server you used back then?
Definitely.
Whitefly.
Oh, I don't remember, man.
Okay. But now back to London. So then you did some Vaadin stuff in London. What was it?
Yeah. It was a web application that managed test cases for some of the migrations they were doing, because it's a very complex piece of software these banks use. So it was basically that, and that was a nice experience, mostly because I was in a new place, completely different place than I was used to. But it wasn't that long, so it's funny because it involves even a love story and everything. So I decided to return to Colombia and try to make things work with my girlfriend back then.
Okay. Which
things worked for 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it didn't work, and but then I decided, okay, let's knock on some other doors. And this is 2014 or something like that. And I applied to a job without knowing it was Vaadin, the company.
Okay.
But they needed someone proficient with Vaadin and willing to move to Finland.
Okay.
And I was like, well, let's try. Let's at least try. It turned out it was for Vaadin, the company. So I got the job. I moved to Finland, where I live now. And I worked first as in services, as in customer projects.
Okay.
And then I moved to marketing on DevRel. And that's what I'm doing right now. I wrote another book after that also.
You wrote another book? It's still in the making or already published?
Yeah. No, it was published in 2018, I believe. It's called Data-Centric Applications with Vaadin 8.
Okay.
That's another book. And I'm writing another one now, right now.
And you are in Turku right now?
I'm in Turku, yeah.
Yeah, I was in Turku, but I didn't meet you, I think, because I was hired by Vaadin as a contractor to help them with Java integration. I forgot when it was, probably 2015, 16 or something like this. And
okay.
And I met the CEO, Jonas, I think, right?
Jonas, yeah.
Yeah, and spent some time and in Turku, which nice. It was like in a power plant, right? I remember there was like a one room like power plant, like yeah, exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. And so now you're doing DevRel and right, developer relations.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
I use Vaadin a little bit in the backend from time to time, and I use JSF more and Vaadin more for like dashboard-like applications, right? So if there were like a dashboard and charts, this was for me the natural fit for Vaadin.
Okay. Yeah.
And recently I use actually Vaadin a lot. What I use are the web components from Vaadin.
Right.
Yeah, and even in the latest online course, I use the Vaadin router because I get lots of questions now how to route, and I wrote my router by myself, but it is actually a nice thing. And I get actually more and more questions regarding web components, and Vaadin is the same story as before. They look nice, and you can just pick them, right? So this is what I and you are also now in the JavaScript space or more on the Java backend?
I'm more what I do is mostly Java backend. So what I've been trying to do is to show how to use other technologies with Vaadin, mostly Java technologies. Yeah.
So what I use Java in the backend, but what usually happens in all my projects right now is we have a REST service, and this is either microprofile Jakarta e-service and various, I would say, Whitefly, Payara, OpenLiberty. Recently, lots of Quarkus. I don't know whether you heard about Quarkus. It's like a popular runtime, and they are exposing REST WebSockets, and in front end we use JavaScript. And now it comes what I do more and more interests and actually clients and contracts. We are migrating away from frameworks. That is the interesting part. So right now
because the web platform is very powerful nowadays.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe.
And this is not it is really and this is actually more than enough for usual applications. Interestingly, in some projects they have to move away from Angular 2 or 2 plus, whatever it is, 9 or whatever.
Yep.
And because they don't understand what's going on anymore, and this is pretty complex application. And the funny story is we do a little bit of JavaScript and ES6 modern lit HTML and some Vaadin components. And the developers really appreciate that because they have complete control, There's nothing in between. And what I do right now is we even try to get rid of NPM from client machines. So like, 10 years earlier. So you can use just browser sync, which automatically reloads the entire screen. And this is where they get delighted. It's okay, now we see the light and go ahead. So this is what I'm doing right now in the front ends. And I do more and more. And sometimes I propose, 2 talks, Java backends or web components front ends, and the organizers pick the web components front end talk. So I have various talks about that, and the feedback is always good, which I didn't suspect. What I thought what will happen is I get lots of negative feedback, like without frameworks you are crazy, you cannot do this, and not at all. Even once I was at a JavaScript conference. And the JavaScript developers came to me. I'm actually a Java developer, right? And they came to me and said, okay, this is amazing. What you can achieve without frameworks. We didn't even knew that. So they were not aware that you can build something sensible without frameworks.
Yeah, it's funny to see also that people, I have heard expressions such as, I know Angular, say, or React. Should I also learn JavaScript?
Exactly. But this is exactly what I saw back then, should we start with web development learning jQuery or JavaScript? This is what I make fun of. So at the beginning, And what people don't get is they think that I'm developing all the components from scratch, which is not at all. For instance, Vaadin router is great, so I pick Vaadin router. In my recent project, they wanted to have, the combo boxes or drop-down boxes where you can edit something. So we picked Vaadin stuff because it's ready to go. Yeah. And what I tell my clients, I hope this is correct because I also asked Jonas about that, is that what the clients can do, they can just pick the open source. But if they are not satisfied with the functionality, they can hire Vaadin, and Vaadin can extend the components. And now come the cool part. If the extension is sensible, it will merge back to the open source master trunk, which means for me, for enterprise project, this is big win because you are not creating a fork. This is the thing, Because if I would extend the component and you will release the new version of the component, I mean, then it's the whole benefit is gone, right?
Yeah, and that happens a lot actually. It's we decide what to fix depending on what the customers are telling us.
Mm-hmm.
So we give we get certain bandwidth, let's say, from engineering to fix those problems, and those are in the core of Vaadin, so available for everybody. But it's kind of sponsored by some companies.
Yeah, which is
in a way
the right thing to do, I would say. This is how it should be, because a Vaadin will be always, better and faster to extend their own components than I would do, right? So I'm also capable of understand what's going on, extend it, but I have no idea what the developer thought. What was the origin thought of the component? They had something in mind, so it is always more efficient than if Vaadin, the originator of components, will extend the components. So,
but what do you use? I'm curious. What do you use about or for implementing web components? If you have to implement a web component,
this is a little bit, a difference what you are proposing sometimes and what I'm doing. The key is that in my projects, developers don't have to install anything. So we use Visual Studio Code, and there is not even NPM required. So you only need NPM to install browser sync. Some developers use something else. I don't care. What I only need is live reload. Okay. So and then to implementation of the web components, we actually use custom element define. So just the native web components, and we use the web components on different levels. So on the higher level is like in Vaadin, you would use panels, navigation, whatever. So this is the name of higher level component. And how I start this, I get, the first component is the app itself. So, and the component has inside, the higher order component. And sometimes we create like a date picker. So we create our own date picker and sometimes not, right? And sometimes if we need tables, for instance.
Incrementally,
then sometimes we pick JQuery plugins. There was a tabulator, I think. This is like a JQuery plugin, which is really nice with tables. And we've wrapped this with a web component, and it works. So now there's one challenge, of course, security and performance. And we use lit HTML, but not the element. Just the template inside the component, and Redux if the component is more complex. And the cool part is, and now even in larger companies say, look, we have low risk project because Redux is like 600 lines of code with JSDoc. Lit HTML is the same. Even if both will die, we can maintain it by ourselves. It's not like Google Web Toolkit where we need Albert Einstein to maintain the code base. So
or another library would arise anyway.
This is like Viper HTML, Hyper HTML, and even you could create your own ES6 literal template, and then you say, okay, but what if it has to look nice? Like, okay, what we can do, we can pick and choose now the components, and we use
system.
For instance, and then we can use Vaadin web components. We use Vaadin, sometimes SAP UI5, also great, or Lion from ING, for instance. So there are different systems, but Vaadin looks the best out of the box, and the Java developers already know Vaadin, right? So Vaadin is a little bit dangerous because they assume that we need the Java backend part. It's like, no. Vaadin also ships the elements and just components, and we can do this.
Correct.
And so mostly like the router and some input fields. This is what we use, and tables not that much because the Vaadin tables work a little bit different. They are too smart. And what we use, we render usually the tables inside the lit HTML, right? And the entire state is not in the table, rather than Redux. And the Vaadin table would be more like the table itself renders from backend, which could be great. Yeah. It is a different approach. So in more simple applications, I would use Vaadin table without Redux. And then we could have, the endless iteration, for instance, or endless pagination, where it just reloads the stuff from the backend, right?
Yeah.
So my point is
also. Yeah. If I can ask you something real quick, how do you deal with like the consistency of the look and feel and the usage, like shortcuts and stuff? If you take components from one set to another. Yeah. Any tips on that?
First layout. So developer likes grid layout. So this is the first thing. The entire thing is grid, and we don't use any CSS frameworks. So this is like forget about Bootstrap and Foundation. We just use CSS grid. Is good enough. Yeah. For nicer look and feel, sometimes we use Bulma. I don't know what they are. It's like a just CSS framework without JavaScript. It's like it looks a little bit nicer. And there's like class button. So if you have a button, say class button, it already looks a little bit nice. So if we get these serious projects, let's say they would mix Vaadin with SAP UI5, then we will try to find the custom properties to match the style. Otherwise, it is impossible because you are using Shadow DOM and the other guys as well, and this would be a problematic.
Yeah.
So in more serious project, we tend to use one set of components. We will either go with SAP UI5 or with Vaadin. And then what I say, okay, I'm now I cannot help you anymore. You have an internal designer, and the designer have to decide whether Vaadin or SAP UI5 or ING is the right look and feel to your company, and whether it is customizable. If not, we can still hire Vaadin, to expose more properties or break the Shadow DOM. And but this is more like a styling conversations. What is the visual language of the project, right? And
True.
I'm working a lot with startups, and they are happy that something appears on the screen, right? So we are moving fast first, and then we think about the design, right?
Right. Gotcha.
So, and what I see in your project, you are trying, to be not as simple as I. So you tend to have, some tooling already on the machine. And I think the future of the entire frameworks is no tooling locally, like it was 15 years ago. Just reload, and go ahead. This is what I do in my projects. I even don't suggest to use TypeScript at the beginning. It's like, why you need an additional step? If you're happy with ES6, go for it, and we can edit later, right? So keep it simple. And this is actually, I could spend now 200% of my time just doing this, and I get endless requests, because the problem is the maintenance of the frameworks. The enterprise companies are sick, of upgrading their entire build system because a framework is released, whatever, and larger companies still don't recognize that if they are hiring one company and they build the software and it goes away, and let's say and they did it with Angular, let's assume, because I really liked React. Actually, React would be my fallback, but so far it was not necessary to use React. I have to admit, we started with the standards, and we always did with the standards. But if they say it is not it's not as productive, then I would say, okay, then go to React. This would be my fallback. And with the Angular, and what they don't recognize is you get 2 major releases a year. And if you wait for too long, what can happen is not that your website breaks or web app breaks. It's more likely that your build won't run. That you will spend a significant amount of time to fix your build. Otherwise, you cannot release. So this is what you should take into consideration. Keep your build running and upgrade all the time. And larger companies don't have such a plan. They don't even know that there is a problem. And if I explain this briefly, semantic versioning, point to Angular, it dies. It's not like, I actually don't care, because I'm spending my time in the backends mostly, but my clients ask me what you do in the front end, what you should do. And if I show them, what I would do, I would use web standards, and they are happy. And also funny thing is, in a startup, there was like an angel investor. He was half knowledge. He was actually a Java programmer, very good C++ Java, and he wanted to have Angular from day one. And I knew him very well, and said, okay, why? So why Angular? And he thought, okay, because without Angular, it will look like crap, he told me, right? So his assumption was, he thought, okay, without a JavaScript framework, there will be, everything will be black and white, and we get, Helvetica, Helvetica Arial, or what is the default even on the screen, this is lots of misconceptions about that.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe, it depends. Also, it depends on the projects. Sometimes there's specific reasons to choose framework, but sometimes there are good reasons anyway to choose a framework. Sometimes it offers kind of a different developer experience, and so that boosts productivity. So right now, the new thing in Vaadin is actually that you can use TypeScript, so that you have type safety in the backend with Java and in the front end with TypeScript. And the new thing there is that, let's say you have an endpoint and you expose a user object or user class from the user class, and then Vaadin, what Vaadin does, generates like the TypeScript equivalent class to that one. So
data transfer object on the client side, right?
Yeah, so it keeps in sync those two. So if you change one accidentally, you catch the error at compile time. So that's kind of one of the new features in the recent versions of Vaadin.
But I mean, if you're using Java on the backend, this is the way to go. I mean, Java Vaadin, Java on the backend. So this is the perfect fit, But we have projects like they're already using Angular. Replacing Angular with Vaadin on the backend, forget it. So this would be like mission impossible. But what you can do is you can keep, the Angular skeleton and add new views with web components, and then pick the Vaadin web components. This is most of my projects, because we never migrated away from Vaadin, I think, because if they are happy, they are happy. So or if someone uses the same, like JSF and they are happy, So they still go with JSF.
Yeah.
The problem is more like you build a fat client, let's call it correctly, on the front end. And then we're replacing the fat clients with web components. And in the backend, we have just an API. It could be Node.js, but in my case, it's always Java. I'm a Java developer.
Yeah, I agree. If the framework is working for the developers, then why changing it?
This is a different architecture. I would say the Vaadin is like a server-centric framework because you get the data binding validation for free. So this is like, the complete stack. And in my recent projects were by accident probably. So I have just, there is a client-centric framework. It's more like fat client. If you would build an application with Swing, but we use JavaScript, which is even sometimes offline capable with, it's a fat client, and we are talking to a remote API.
Right. How do you like JavaScript, by the way?
The new one, so I ignored JavaScript completely. So until 2015, I said, okay, we will try to generate that. The ES6, I use it all the time. For me, it's no difference to Java, to be honest. I can switch back and forth. A little bit strange is now the new Java has the var, and I try to get rid of vars in JavaScript. So I use let and const. So if in Java there would be no var, just let, it would be perfect. But I really enjoyed the modern JavaScript, and not only me, all Java developers in the migration projects, they really like because it really looks like Java. In JavaScript we have we have the fat arrow. In Java we have the thin arrow. You can explain all the concepts, Java concepts, with JavaScript and vice versa. So the modern stuff is no difference, I would say, almost.
Even the date class it's support from Java.
New date is very similar,
exactly
right?
The same.
Exactly the same. And what's nicer in JavaScript, you have the destructuring, which we use all the time. This was like,
Oh, that's amazing.
This is what we use.
I bet it's going to arrive to Java, the language, at some point.
Yeah, actually, I saw already 2 years ago, there was a talk about Java, about destructuring. So it has to arrive. And so for me, it is actually a nice experience, nicer than before 2015. It was crazy. They even had a module pattern with nested functions to have namespace. Okay, come on, what are you talking about now? And now we have ES6 modules, which you explain to Java programmers just packages. Even nicer, because with exports, imports, you have you can even mimic. We get with modules, we get singleton pattern out of the box, and what we get also encapsulation, private, public out of the box. But this is like package on steroids in Java, so you can explain very fast all the concept what you need, right?
True. Yeah, I find funny sometimes that JavaScript, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree, but in my opinion, it's one of those languages that many developers feel like you don't have to study the language in order to be able to use it.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah.
And then, that's good and bad at the same time, because it's good because then you can do things with it. But also, since you don't study, you don't understand why things are the way they are. The history, what happened, what led to those decisions, and so forth. Yeah.
Actually, JavaScript is more Lisp, right? So if you look at this, it's like a HashMap of HashMaps. This is what happens behind the scenes. And if you explain to developers, Java developers, look, if you know what it is, it's like a HashMap of HashMaps, and then you can use reflection to change things, right? So this is like the reflection on steroids, and then get it also immediately. So this is like it is. So listen, I would like to re-invite you back one point of time and talk about Vaadin more deeply. But your history was too interesting. This was the problem, This is
that's good to hear.
Just do it again, and we can go through Vaadin components if you like. This is what I get lots of requests, so we can have more deep conversation what's happened there, and of course in Java backend as well. So I'm a Java developer, always also curious what happens there, and maybe you have something with Quarkus. This is Quarkus a huge interest. So
yeah, Quarkus is big nowadays.
This is a huge actually, and do you have any pointers, to Vaadin, to your job, to your Twitter account, GitHub, of course your QBasic project,
Yeah, well, on GitHub, I think the handle is Alejandro _DU, something like that. The same on Twitter, and then my website, you find links to all of that. Is alejandrodu.com.
Okay, alejandrodu.com. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.